Hi everyone, it's Mike here. Thanks for joining me for another journal page. This time we're looking at week 27 from journal 52, and the prompt for this week is kindness. So for this page I'm working in my Strathmore Mixed Media journal, and I'm going to cover a double page spread with white gesso. Now that the pages are completely covered in gesso, I'm going to give them a quick blast with a heat tool just to make sure they're all nice and dry before moving on and adding on some colour to those pages. So the first colour we're going to add to the pages are distress paint, and this is the Mermaid Lagoon, one of the new colours for 2015, and I'm going to dab the paint across the pages, and I'm going to apply that with a baby wipe and blend all that colour together. This is one of my go-to techniques when I'm applying paint to a page, and can be done with any acrylic paint. It doesn't have to be the distress paint from Tim Holtz or Ranger. The beauty of applying paint in this manner is that you can take away as much as you want, or you can build the layers up time and time again by adding more paint, which you'll see me do a couple of times on this page, because I wasn't particularly happy with the way it was going on, so I did add some more and then blended it out and then added some more again. You get the picture. So once I'm happy with the paint distribution and I'm happy with the way it looks on the page, I'm going to give it a quick heat blast with that heat tool just to make sure everything's nice and dry before I move on to my next layer. So using the same white gesso that I did at the beginning, I've just taken an old piece of sponge that I've pulled and distressed a bit, and I'm going to apply some of that white gesso across the page to give the page a few sort of cloud effects in my blue sky, because that's what the blue is all about. So while those clouds are drying, I'm going to bring in some prints that I did with my jelly plate, because I'm going to start tearing these up and adding these to the page and using them as collage elements to build up the page, the scene that I want to create. So all I'm going to do is just tear them into pieces, and well, you'll see what happens and what I'm trying to build up as it happens. And for those of you that are interested in the way that these process videos are put together, I have speeded the video up to twice its normal length. So the whole of this video is about 22 minutes, so after editing, this page took me around about an hour to create in total. So now that I'm happy I've got all the pieces torn out to relatively the shapes that I want, I'm going to stick those down to my page using matte medium or gel medium. This one is from Winsor & Newton. When you're using gel medium or matte medium or gloss medium for that matter, or any kind of medium as a glue, the best way to stick your items down is to apply some medium to the page first, then apply some medium to the back of the object that you're wanting to stick down, and then once you've done that, apply your coat over the top to make sure you've got all the edges sealed. And that also creates a really good seal so you can add layers on top later. And of course, when I created my jelly print, I used acrylic paints for that too, so that I knew that once they were dry, they weren't going to reactivate with the gel medium once I stuck them down onto the page. So if you'd used watercolours or any other type of water-based mediums on your jelly plate, then as soon as you stick the matte medium down, it will start to move. So you'll lose some of the colour. With the acrylics, that doesn't happen, so using acrylic paint is the best way to achieve your colour vibrancy and to make sure nothing will move around on the page when you're putting your page together. So once I'm happy with the placement of all my pieces and I've stuck it all down, I'm going to give it a quick heat blast to make sure everything's nice and dry before I start adding on the next layer of collage items. So I'm just clearing a bit of space and doing a bit of a tidy up there, and I'm using a DVD or a blank DVD just to give me a rough outline of a circle, and then I'm going to roughly tear a circle shape out of that orange and yellow jelly plate print. So now that my orange and yellow ball is stuck in the sky, I'm now going to tear another sheet. This is primarily yellows, and I'm going to create some sunbeams. Now I know some of you sat there at home are going to be going, I would have stuck the sunbeams down first and then put the sun over the top. That way you'd have hidden all of the edges. But the reason I've not done that is because I want you to see the edges, and I want you to see that the sun is made up of collaged elements. So it was a deliberate act. So I wanted you to see that it was all made up of torn out pieces and not just all tucked in nice and neat if you like. Well, that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. So you may have noticed that when I've been sticking the paper down over the crease in the double page spread, you've noticed that I've actually been folding it first, and I find that that makes it a lot easier to be able to push the paper into the crease so that when you do close your book you don't have a great big mass of bunching papers there. It just helps the book close again once everything's dry and you've finished and putting your book away. Okay, so don't ask me why I'm about to add a second layer over the top of the centre of the sun, because I've absolutely no idea why I did it. It was just one of those things. I wasn't thinking and I just added another circle over the top. Luckily, you can't really tell, but there you go. It's just one of those things. I don't know why I did it. It just happened. So again, just giving it a bit of a heat blast to make sure that the matte medium is completely dry. And then I'm going to trim all the excess pieces of paper that are hanging over the edges with a pair of scissors before we move on to the next step. There you go. I missed a bit. Okay, so we're collaging, so out come the big brush pens. So these are the Faber-Castell Pitt pens. These are the big brush ones, and they're India ink, which means that if you're working on a non-porous surface, which mine now is because I've gone over it with the matte medium and everything is sealed, you can actually blend these pens before they dry. But when they do dry, they are completely and utterly permanent. So you can get some great effects just by blending with your fingers or with a piece of sponge or even a paper stump or something like that. You can get some great shading ideas or great shading effects, and this is one of the green ones, without too much trouble. So they're a great investment. And you can see you've got plenty of work time with these pens, so even though you put the ink down, you've got loads and loads of time to actually work with it before they dry. So you know, they're a brilliant versatile pen, and I heartily recommend you going out and finding somewhere that sells them. Okay, so we're on to our next step. Out comes the archival ink in jet black and a wood mounted stamp from my stash. Don't ask me where I got this from. It's just one of those types that I just keep in a box somewhere, and it only comes out every so often, and it's just a very, very simple flower shape. So the pen I'm using here just to draw the lines in is the food ball, and I'm just going to draw a few leaves in there on the flower as well, just to finish it off. So this is the Do Crafts acrylic paint, and this is the Christmas green, and I'm using a very, very small brush, just a small pointed brush, but it's a small detail brush really, just to paint in those some colour into those leaves. Actually, looking at that purple top on the brush, I think it's from the one of the Dina Wakley paint brushes. I could be wrong, but I'm 99% certain it is. So now that my leaves are painted in, I'm going to paint my flower. Bringing out the golden sun once I've just dried the leaves off so I don't smudge them when I start adding in the colour. So I've zoomed in a little so you can see exactly what I'm doing down there, but don't worry if I'm painting out the lines a little bit, because I'm going to go back in at the very end and just tidy up those lines if I do actually go over a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to allow some time for that to dry on its own, and then I'm going to bring out the Signo white gel pen and I'm going to add in the centre of my flower. And then out comes the food ball, and I'm going to add some black detailing now just around the page, just to tie everything together to the flower, because at the minute it stands out like a sore thumb. So now everything's dry, it's time for me to add my quote or my saying to the page, and I'm just going to be using matte medium, or I'm going to try and use matte medium, because for some strange reason this word, the word kindness, just refuses to stick down. Now, it may be the fact that I've actually used a sealer on it, because I did print it off using an inkjet printer, and to make sure that it didn't reactivate with the gel medium, I did actually cover it with some spray sealer, and it just refuses to stick down. So in the end, I end up wiping it all off and then bringing out a collage glue pen or glue stick and stick everything down with that instead. So the first glue stick that I try is the triangular collage glue stick from Ranger, and it ran out. It wouldn't come out any further, so it was done and dusted. So I was actually flogging a dead horse with this one. So I ended up throwing that in the bin and pulling out another one that I had in my stash. There you go, the round one, which I've had for ages and never used. So there you go. Holding on to stuff sometimes is a bonus. And for this last piece, where the words say virtue grows, for some strange reason it just wouldn't stick down at all, even with the collage glue stick. It did actually just keep lifting off, so I just had to persevere with it in the end. I did contemplate using 6-inch nails, but I just thought the glue would hold eventually. So in a second or two you will see that it lifts off again. It sticks to my finger instead. So I've literally got to hold it down and then just use the heat gun over the top, just in the hope that it will stick, which it did eventually. So I'm just going to have a quick tidy up and a quick wipe down just to make sure the glue's out of the way, and then out comes the food ball again for the final bit of detailing around the centre of the flower and around my word blocks. Now I could have used the Stabilo all pencil, the black all pencil for this, but I just didn't think it was the right tool for this job. I wanted crisp lines for it, so the aquarelle pencil didn't seem appropriate. So that's about it for this page. All I have to do now is just to date it and sign it in my usual way, and we're going to call it done. Thanks for joining me for this video, and if you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up so YouTube know that you'd like to see more from me. And if you haven't subscribed already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. Once again, thanks for watching.